Let's start off with the issue of Pyongyang. What are both sides hoping to achieve? We've had, of course, China being the crucial factor in these sort of negotiations and what can possibly be done to rein in North Korea. But what are you hoping for out of these talks?
Well, here in Seoul, I'm very struck by the high hopes and expectations there are on President Moon as a new Korean president to establish a good relationship with President Trump, to underscore to the American administration, the still new American administration, South Korea's perspective. And I think President Moon will be coming with a message which he's already tried to build in the weeks coming up to this summit, that the alliance is a strong one, that he remains committed to it, the U.S.-South Korea alliance, and that only by working very transparently and closely together can the challenges and threats that North Korea presents be dealt with. President Moon comes from a political background and a party that has been very committed to seeking ways to lower tensions with North Korea, to improve the relationship between the two Koreas. I think he'll want to talk about something about that, but he'll also want to talk about the prime objective of the alliance to defend South Korea, particularly in light of North Korea's recent missile tests, its ongoing nuclear program, and the human rights situation.
President Trump, through his tweets, through some of his comments, has kind of given a bit more of an aggressive stance, a sense of frustration that more isn't being done. On the other hand, you do have, Moon taking his sunshine policy, which is well known on Pyongyang. Do you expect that there might be some divisiveness when they get to the table to talk about what the best way is to deal with North Korea?
Well, I think it's too early to say. I think that it's certainly true that President Trump has expressed some frustration, including at China not doing as much as he, to date, has hoped that it would do. But I think it also means that he's going to look to South Korea to see what it's ready to do. And certainly the Trump bumper sticker so far for North Korea policy has been maximum pressure and engagement, that they're both sides of it. And I think President Moon has some ideas about engagement, but the important thing is that those are coordinated. And there's also the question of where North Korea is on these things. I mean, President Moon, in his first days in office, did seek to reopen some of the previous humanitarian assistance and other inter-Korean engagement. North Korea has, maybe not surprisingly, given him a cold shoulder. So I think President Moon, with his background and experience, comes pretty realistically to the challenges of dealing with North Korea, and also comes very convinced, again from his past experience, that it's only when Washington and Seoul are able to talk very frankly to each other, usually, and come up with a coordinated plan, that we have any chance of making some progress on North Korea.
Kathleen, there's going to be a 52-person delegation there meeting with Trump and many of his associates, and among them are going to be the CEOs and senior executives at Samsung, Hyundai, many of the big Korean companies. How much do you think that helps for a businessman like Donald Trump to also see that there's going to be some high-level executives really sort of pounding that drumbeat about free trade and remaining engaged there business-wise and trade-wise with Korea and the U.S.?
Well, certainly, I think the fact that the delegation is so high-powered, and some of Korea's top big businesses, as well as some leaders of small and medium businesses, are going on this trip, is an indication of the sensitivity there is here, of course, to American and the Trump administration's trade and economic policy. I think the South Koreans feel that the Korea-U.S. free trade agreement has been good for both sides, and they'll want to talk about that. But I hope they'll also be ready to talk about updating it. If there are areas that need to be updated or modernized, that they'll be ready to do that. But I think they have a good story to tell in terms of South Korean investment in the United States, and many of these companies, I think, are going to talk about that and talk about even expanding that. And I think the impression is that this is something that President Trump, as a businessman, as someone who's talked a lot about investment and trade, will be interested in.
How much do you think Mr. Moon has observed closely that meeting earlier this week between President Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi?
I think all of the summits that President Trump has had to date have been closely observed here in South Korea. There's been concern about some of the comments that candidate and then President Trump made about alliances, about trade, as we've talked about. And they've watched his relationship with Mr. Abe, with Mr. Xi, and as you say, on Monday with Mr. Modi. And my own view is that if this visit at the end of this week is a bookend to the Modi visit, that would be very good. I thought President Trump, in emphasizing the values, including democracy, that strengthen the relationship between India and the United States, takes a similar approach with South Korea, and also has an appreciation, which every American president has not only had, but really deepened during their tenure, for the extraordinary partnership between South Korea and the United States, that will be a success here, and I think it'll be a good thing for the Trump administration.
This huge challenge that President Moon has when it comes to THAAD, how do you think he should deal with it? And what are you expecting to come out of these talks? Because he's very much squarely between, not wanting to attract further ire from Beijing, but also coming under significant pressure from Washington.
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate, obviously, that this kind of deployment of an anti-missile system to meet the growing missile challenge from North Korea has become an issue on which South Korea has gotten squeezed. And I think here in Seoul, I hear from Koreans all the time. They feel very squeezed with this terrible pressure, economic pressure coming from China and pressure from the United States. So I think it's going to be in the interest of both presidents to make sure that this does not dominate or overshadow the broad themes of the summit and the importance of building a relationship, and that, as President Moon and his new administration has indicated they want to do, that they find a way forward towards the completion of the deployment as quickly as possible.
Kathleen, given how much experience and time you've spent in Korea, I'm just curious, following the election, following this new installation of the administration, has there been a shift in public sentiment after all of the political turmoil, the complete, destruction of credibility of the political class and also the business class in South Korea?
Actually, I find Koreans quite upbeat. President Moon won in this extraordinary election held just about 2 months ago with only 41% of the vote in a multi-candidate race. But his approval rating at this point is around 80%. Now, people are watching this summit very closely because, as I said, every Korean president needs to demonstrate that he or she can manage the crucial U.S. relationship well. But I find the mood quite upbeat. There is some worry about as I already mentioned, about the Trump administration, some of the things President Trump has said. So this week will be very, very important. But and there's continued worry, of course, about the economic pressure from China, which goes on. But the Koreans are resilient, and I think they feel proud that they got through a period of political turmoil with a sense of confidence in their democracy, and many, many expectations are on the shoulders now of President Moon Jae-In.